Actually, Jeff, we should tell you, one of the reasons this is kind of cool is that when I got married, I wanted to tell my groomsmen in a really exciting way that I wanted to get married, that I was getting married.
Yeah.
So I sent each of the groomsmen, including Jack, a Harry's box.
With a note that said "Groom yourself."
Get ready to get groomed.
It was a really fun way to announce that.
Stop it. Get ready to get groomed.
Yes, we sent it to.
I love that.
Literally, I remember I was in
Do you
Philadelphia.
allowed to swear on this or not?
Yes
a little
and no.
bit.
We don't, but
You can bleep me out. I love that.
yeah. Then 4.5 years later, be here with you. This is like really cool for us.
Yeah, that was a great way to be invited.
Get ready to get groomed. I love that. That's so good.
That could be your next like summer
We're gonna
box.
steal that
The
for,
next theme.
for groomsmen.
For groomsmen, just specifically for groomsmen.
Groom. Get ready to get groomed as the thing to let. Wow, how good is that?
Yeti's our guest today didn't build one unicorn, he built 2 unicorns. Our guest today is the co-founder of Harry's and Warby Parker. If you wear glasses on your face, then he designed your shades. If you groom your body, then he designed your blades. He started his company as a student project and turned that into a $2 billion disrupting company. He once shaved his very own legs just to test the sharpness. And now he knows the secret to the perfect shave for men and for women. He can turn your peach fuzz into a goatee with one hand and raise $400 million in venture capital money with the other. Besties, our guest today is Jeff Rader, co-founder of both Warby Parker and Harry's. The only thing this guy hasn't disrupted is cat food. Oh, wait! Oh, yeah! He disrupted that, too. Yes, he did. This is Nick. This is Jack. And today's interview pod is the best one yet. Let's hit that jingle.
15 years before this song, 2 boys from the Northeast met in the dorm. They had an idea that caused a cultural storm. It's the best one yet, but the best is the norm. Jack, Nick, that's it. I don't even think they need to practice. 50%, that's a fat tip. T-Boy City on your list. If you know, you know, cause we ready to go. We can't wait no more, so just start the show. Start the show.
Jeff, the other reason we were so excited to be meeting with you today is that you founded not one, but you founded 2 unicorns. And we're going to tell the story on all of that in a bit. But first, the thing Jack and I were curious about as we were walking over here was, is there a formula to disruption?
When you look at an industry, what makes you think I can innovate there? I can do better there.
Yeah, like, what's your playbook for disruption?
Good question. I think it starts literally with like things that you're kind of unhappy with, or things that you think could be better for yourself. So, when we started Warby Parker, I was sitting around in the computer lab with some friends after class. And one of my friends said, "What do you think of the idea of selling glasses online?" And I was like, I would love a new pair of glasses. Like, I'm a student. I've had the same glasses for many years. My prescription's changed multiple times. I haven't changed my glasses. I think I've got like a piece of duct tape holding, like a couple parts together. It'd be great, but they're just so expensive.
Right.
Another one of my friends is like, well, they don't have to be. And then you could make glasses that you love, that, say something about who you are, that you're super proud to wear every day, and make them for less than $100. And I was like, oh boy, like that sounds amazing. And so went home, couldn't sleep that night. And the same thing happened to me with Harry's. Andy had a really bad experience at a drugstore one day and said, gosh, I just went to a drugstore to wait for someone to unlock that razor case. And then I paid like $25 for razor blades and some shaving cream. And I'm looking at my package, and there's a picture of a razor blade flying over the moon. Like, what's up with that? And he and I were good friends. He actually G-chatted me. Sometimes we said he called me, but the truth is he G-chatted me.
We don't have to, you don't have to yourself. We can relate to that.
I was at work, and he's like, what do you think about this? And I had this like immediate visceral feeling like, gosh, that experience really isn't great. And these brands are taking advantage of us, and we could do something better for ourselves first, and then for like lots of other people everywhere. And I imagine that that's happened across like lots of different businesses. I'm sure someone was standing on a rainy sidewalk one day, just waiting, trying to get a cab, and like over and over again. And they're like, gosh, if I could just press a button and have a car show up, or,
I think before that you said, if I could have something to cover the rain from over my head.
Yeah.
The umbrella.
That was the first product.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Totally. Yeah.
Disrupting rain.
Exactly. Disrupting rain.
So, Jeff, today we're going to speak with you about the founding of Warby Parker, then the founding of Harry's, how Harry's grew, where Harry's is today, and then the future of Harry's and the future of grooming and the future of direct-to-consumer. But first,
love it.
We want to go all the way back to your childhood.
Okay.
You're the son of an entrepreneur. Your mom was an entrepreneur. But you didn't want to be an entrepreneur at first, from what we understand, right?
Totally.
You specifically didn't want to, but you became one. How did that work out?
I saw my mom go through this entrepreneurial journey, and I was like, this seems really hard. Like, there's got to be a better job out there than this.
It's
Like,
a lot of
you're
hours.
working all the time. It's stressful. There's tons of emotional ups and downs. You know, I think when she was building her company, like, she was sort of the, our main source of income as a family. And, starting a company is not all that stable. And so, like, we were also just kind of like financially concerned, or I was financially concerned. And so I was like, I'm going to work really hard and never have to do that. I'm going to actually go to school and get good grades and work hard and get a good job, and like, not that one. And then I kind of like tried to do that. I went to school and I got good grades. I got an amazing job at Bain, where I met my Harry's co-founder, Andy. And then I worked at a private equity fund called Charles Bank, which is a great place with great people, and learned a lot. And those places had more stability and long-term sort of like financial outlook that was clearer. And then I went to business school, and I had this amazing sort of moment where we thought of the idea of Warby Parker. I was exposed to the idea of Warby Parker. For me at the time when I was in business school, I knew I was going to go back and work in private equity. And so I was kind of like thinking about what I would want to make of those couple years at business school. And should I have another professional like experience? And Warby Parker seemed like a great thing to do. Like, I was really excited about the idea. I thought it'd be fun to build it in school with some friends. And what I didn't realize, maybe I should have, having seen my mom, was that it was going to become all consuming. And while a ton of work, like, amazingly rewarding to be able to create something that actually makes people's lives better in some ways. Like, we're sitting in our office and I'm looking at our board. It says create things people like more. If you can reach millions and millions of people with things they like more, like, it's meaningful impact. And then I still wasn't sure.
All right, so wait, let's back up a sec. Because
Totally.
we want to make sure we
Sorry.
flesh this out, because this is really exciting stuff.
It took me a long
this
time.
Is good.
The short story is, it took me a long time to figure out that I actually wanted to do it.
Mm-hmm. That's a key insight, because you're a guy from just outside of Boston. You're taking the traditional career path, finance, consulting, and then you end up at business school.
Where you launched Warby Parker, a defining company for the millennial generation that created the direct-to-consumer business model. But it all started as a class project?
We were like trying to picture this, because we were in business school too, and like we did a lot of class projects. None of them became unicorns yet. So like, take us back to the scene. Take us to the scene. We want to follow in these footsteps.
So
the project.
The idea for Warby Parker came, we were sitting around after class one day, and Dave Gilboa, who's one of my co-founders, an amazing person, came up to Neil Blumenthal, another one of my co-founders, and me. I just happened to be sitting there with Neil. Like,
this is just
there
chance.
Was total serendipity.
You weren't buddies at the point?
We were friends.
Okay.
We were all friends. But I think he came up to Neil because Neil had worked in the eyewear industry before school, and I just literally happened to be there. And he was like, what do you guys think? What do you think of selling glasses online? And he'd gotten that idea, or heard about that, from another one of our classmates named Andy, who had come to business school with the idea, and another buddy of ours. And so Dave comes up to us and asks us, and I was like, this is an awesome idea. I would love a pair of glasses that were under $100 and were made with the best materials and in a style that I loved and from a brand that I was interested in. Like, I would totally be into that. And what was cool is that Neil had experience before business school in the eyewear industry, and was like, you could totally do that. Like, it's possible. I was like, no way. And then I was like, I don't get it, but my prescription, and it's so complicated, and I've got high index lenses, and all this. He's like, this is possible. And so I went home that night, and I literally couldn't sleep. At like 1 a.m., I emailed them, and I was like, I can't stop like thinking about this, and I can't sleep. Like, what do you all think? And they email right back, like, we can't stop it either.
No
and
way.
Same thing about it either.
That's cool.
And talking about entrepreneurship being all consuming.
Yeah.
And so we then ended up sort of the four of us getting together and saying, hey, like, we're in school. Why don't we just do this? And we can take a class, an entrepreneurship class, and work on the business plan in class and get advice from really smart people.
Then you had what Nick and I like to call the Michael Jordan moment. Yeah. Michael Jordan got cut from varsity.
Yeah.
You didn't win that venture competition.
No, we didn't even make it to like the semifinals.
You're kidding.
We got like ceremoniously dismissed, I feel like. Unceremoniously.
This is like failing the paper essentially on what
Totally.
becomes your future business.
Totally.
Okay, so there is a key skill that you have here, it seems like, pattern recognition.
Mm-hmm.
What made you think that you could apply what you did to glasses then to razors and shaving?
So when Andy, my Harry's co-founder, called me with the idea for Harry's, one of the questions he asked me, not called me, G-chatted me.
Yeah.
One of the questions he G-chatted me was, could you all take what you learned at Warby Parker and do it here? And I kind of sat back and I was like, there's a lot of interesting similarities. Like, the industries are dominated by one giant company. So Luxottica really dominates the eyewear industry. At the time, the frame side. Gillette has dominated the razor industry forever. It seems like they're making a lot of money by charging really high prices for things that are disconnected from the actual cost to make the thing.
Yeah.
And so therefore you could make the thing and still make some money and sell it for a lot less than they do. And 3, the brands have been around for a long time. Luxottica doesn't have brands. You kind of license in other brands.
What are some of Luxottica's brands?
I mean, most of the major fashion houses license in their brands to companies like Luxottica. So fashion brands, Prada or Gucci or whatever. And then they also own Oliver Peoples and Persol, and they own
Ray-Ban.
I think they own Lens Crafters, Sunglass Hut. They kind of own the whole industry, but with a bunch of different brands. And then Gillette's been a brand that's been around for a long, long time.
1901, I think.
Yeah. And, I think they've also built a great brand, but that brand was kind of really came to life when we were kids in the 80s, kind of telling guys to be the best, right? Gillette, the best a man can get.
Right.
Showing pictures of shirtless guys with like a 6-pack, looking off into the distance,
Yeah,
shaving
totally.
one side of their face as someone, a girl rubbed the other side. And
Right. 3
that
biceps.
wasn't as much as that's, my personal reality.
Yeah.
that
Beautiful
wasn't,
jawline.
that was, totally. My jaw is just, that we knew that wasn't our reality or the reality for lots of guys out there. And that we just kind of were on this journey trying to figure it out for ourselves and have a great shaving experience with the brands that we trusted. And so I think there was a lot of parallels like that.
We should point out, a best a man can get. This feels like, Jack, you should disclose that thing. I honestly did not. I know Jack
Until this morning.
so well.
Yeah.
Best friend. We pod every day together. I did not know this about Jack until this morning. You should share it now.
My Nana, her father, my great-grandfather, was A. Craig Smith, VP of marketing at Boston-based Gillette,
No way.
who in the 50s came up with look sharp, feel sharp, be sharp, and actually pioneered sports marketing. So the World Series, I think it was in Ebbets Field in Brooklyn, let's say Dodgers, Yankees. Gillette was the sponsor of that World Series, and it was one of the first times ever that like a non-tobacco company
Totally.
was involved in sports marketing.
And was pioneering
I know.
that concept of this is who a man is,
Yeah.
and this is how you
Totally.
shave that man.
Totally. And now
Right?
you fast forward it and they own football stadium naming rights, and there's a crazy razor getting pieced together at football halftime shows and all these things. And those products are super expensive. And that's why. Because guess what? When you're looking sharp and being sharp and feeling sharp and all
Yeah.
the sharp, and you're in the World Series and, it costs a lot of money.
Yeah,
And so
yeah.
you got to charge people a lot of money for your thing.
So you're looking at Gillette and you're seeing dominance in the razor industry. You're seeing a 100-year-old company. You're seeing they have enough money to own the NFL football stadium in Boston.
Classic.
Those are some signs that say this is a disruptible
Do
industry.
you want to hear a good story about that?
Yeah.
So we're both from Boston, my co-founder Andy and I.
Yeah.
And one day we met Bob Kraft at
Really?
at a function. Andy goes up to Bob Kraft and he's like, we're from Boston and we run Harry's, and someday we're going to rename your stadium Harry's House.
Oh, wow.
And Bob Kraft just looks at him and goes, that'll cost you. Great statement.
That's a great
Yeah.
response.
And,
That's a great response.
I'm sure he doesn't remember that. And this is my point. It's really expensive to do all that stuff. And wouldn't you rather? I was like, Andy, we're not going to rename it Harry's House because we're going to take that and we're going to give that value back to our customers.
Yetis, Nick and Jack here again. We're back with you in the T-Boy studio. Okay, we just heard about Jeff co-founding 2 unicorns, $2 billion brand icons for millennials. But wait, Jack, hold on 1 second there. Doesn't Jeff also have a 3rd job at a private equity firm right now? I think he mentioned that, yeah. So he has a problem, a good problem, but a problem nonetheless. Jeff's got too many options. Maybe you had that problem too. So he's about to make a big decision. A really big decision. Jack, we should jump back into the interview.
So let's do a little more scene setting here. When you were at Warden, you are running a glasses startup that's taking off out of your apartments in Philadelphia. And you're having these, what Jack and I call good nightmares. You can't sleep at night because you're so excited about the business.
You also have a full-time PE position waiting for you, and you returned to that after graduation.
Yes.
You also connected with Andy
Yes.
and became part-time at Harry's.
So
Yes.
Jack and I were adding this up before the pod, and we were like,
Yeah.
wait a second, you had 3 jobs after business school simultaneously, and then you collapse of exhaustion, from what I understand.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's true.
Can you take us to that moment, and what did you decide to do?
Well, I was sort of leaving private equity, and I loved the Charles & Knight folks, and I was actually working on an IPO of an oil and gas company there. I was still on the board at Warby Parker, but at the time we'd brought in some amazing investors at Warby Parker, and I think I'd spent a lot of time early on after I'd left kind of helping us think through like who else would take on more responsibility. And the team was really starting to form in an awesome way around my co-founders. And so that was
4 co-founders.
Yeah.
There's 3
and
co-founders with you.
3 plus me, and then Neil and Dave 2 stayed. So that felt like it was in a great kind of spot. And then Harry's was starting to get busier, and we were having to make a bunch of decisions on things like what are we going to call the brand and how the product's going to look and feel. And so as I was leaving Charles Bank, I started to spend a lot of time on that nights and weekends. And yeah, I've never worked harder in my life. And I was with some friends, literally, I think the weekend after I left Charles Bank, it was Labor Day weekend of, 2012. I grew up outside of Boston. We're in Cape Cod. And I was like at a place that we go to all the time. And I passed out.
Really?
At like a bar.
Wow.
Yeah, I woke up in the emergency room and
Holy
I was
cow.
like, on the way to the emergency room. And I think, I was like, I probably need to find some balance here.
Warby was starting to become a sure bet.
Yeah.
PE was a sure bet.
Right,
that
so-
was a great
Yeah.
paycheck.
Seems to make sense to do those 2.
Yeah.
Harry's was the riskiest of them all. And your mother showed you how hard life of entrepreneurship was. Was it the good nightmares that pushed you into that direction?
Yeah. I think probably 2 things. I think one, a recognition that I think I would be happier day to day doing this.
Uh-huh.
And when I started doing this, my wife, who I met in college, has known me for, I was like, you're a different person. Like the level of optimism and excitement that I feel from you on a daily basis is like palpably different because you're building something that's just like that you can shape in a way that's really meaningful and important. In the history of Harry's, we've had probably a couple thousand people, who've worked with us over the last 10 years. I hope by and large they've had really good experiences. And I know we've changed our industry for the better.
It's like you're saying that the thing about entrepreneurship is you see the upside so much more than you see the downside.
Yeah, I think so. And I think, probably to be an entrepreneur, you have to be a bit of an optimist.
Mm-hmm.
Like you have to think that things could actually 19 things could break your way.
Now, we noticed you mentioned earlier that that's when you launched the Harry's brand.
Yeah.
And brand is key here because 2 of the companies you founded, Warby Parker and Harry's, we've called them brandicorns because they're unicorns, but we're focused on brand.
Yeah.
So what is the most important rule to great branding from someone who's created 2 great brands?
It's probably about figuring out at the very fundamental level, what does the brand kind of mean in someone's life? We built Harry's as like this warm, approachable brand that people would want to get to know and be a part of in sort of opposition to Gillette, which at the time was like a kind of a cold, unapproachable, be the best, perfect guy.
It's a contrast.
If like Gillette's there, and that's not really what we want, what would we want? So we asked ourselves that question, like, wow, gosh, I don't really know how to shape. I'd love a brand that would just be kind of honest with me and tell me how you do it. Like, it's cool. Wink, wink, I love someone who I could like talk to that was kind of warm and approachable and friendly. Harry was a grandfather figure in my life. And so we, said, well, we love this idea of shaving being passed down from grandfathers to fathers and fathers to sons. It's also funny that the name is Harry's. And
Yeah.
that
Yeah, it's
we're talking
ironic.
about
That's a
Harry. It's
good
ironic.
twist.
And so
Yeah.
like, we're like kind of made us smile when we saw it. And we're like, this is what we want the brand to feel like. And then when we started asking other people about the name, it was like, well, it's like my Uncle Harry or like my local neighborhood bar and we liked that sort of feeling for the brand. And then what you can do is start to find these interesting tensions, which is I think the second piece of it.
So the first part is it makes you feel.
Figure out
Great
what
brand
you
makes you
want
feel.
people to feel like when you sort of, and then build the kind of name and the world around the brand in that way.
And then part 2 is
I think
tension.
find these interesting tensions. So like if the brand is fun and playful and simple in some ways, you can then use design and elevate it in a pretty exciting way. And that creates interesting tension. So we looked at the department store Barney's.
Okay.
Kind of funny name, Barney's.
Yeah.
But yet Barney's is one of the highest end department stores. And I don't mean to offend any Barney's or
No,
any
no,
Harry's, but like,
we were just thinking of the purple dinosaur.
Yeah, but we know you need fancy department store, but it's called Barney's. Yeah, it's
but like
attention.
what they then did is this amazing job of elevating it in an incredible way with design, the logo and the way that it felt and that color palette and everything that it stood for from a design perspective, then sort of create this interesting tension where it's like, it's high design, but it's also got this approachable name. I like that. And so we liked those ideas as we were building the brand.
We know a small detail you do with the apostrophe.
Totally. And you know what's interesting when we
You're
looked at the
owning
Harry's
that character.
Right,
we
so the
looked at
name
the
is
Harry's
Harry's,
logo,
but you
we were
use
like,
the apostrophe.
all the letters are like pretty simple, but that apostrophe, there's something interesting about the apostrophe. And I literally talked to like, the folks that were working with it. I was like, that's a cool apostrophe. And they're like, we bet we could play with the H apostrophe.
What you've done is you've created a brand, Harry's Eraser, a feeling and attention that can be represented by a single grammatical
Apostrophe.
mark. Now, the obvious question here is, we were talking about men's razors to start. That's 50% of the market. It's men's razors. So you've got the other side of the market, the other 50%, which is women's razors. How did you address that market?
So when we started Harry's, I initially was like, well, why shouldn't Harry's also be available for women and focused on women, and we should market to women and build a brand that's very much unisex. And then we started speaking with women in the very early days about their predominant kind of experience to shaving. And it was very clear that for many women, they felt very differently than lots of men did about shaving. Lots of guys who we talked to talked about shaving as this cherished ritual in their morning. You know, like I do it and I think about the day ahead and I get ready. And it's actually very much tied to my appearance. Did I shave or did I not? How do I look? When we talk to women or like just generally people who shave their bodies or their legs, totally different. Like it was like, get this dirt off my body.
More functional.
It was part of my shower routine. Like I need to remove dirt. When we thought about it, then we're like, whoa, these like usage occasions, right, whether for men or women or just face shaving or body shaving, they just need to stand for different things. And so what we said, let's start with Harry's, which should be predominantly focused on men who are shaving their faces in the morning. Like, boom, we can own this cherished experience for them. And then over time, we need to build a brand, another brand that speaks to people about removing hair on their bodies and in a way that is sort of gets it.
So it's a different value proposition for men and women. It's actually not just taking a men's razor and making it pink. You're saying it's a totally different product.
It's a different emotional proposition. Yeah.
Between the genders.
Yeah. And so we're like, okay, got it. And then we started Harry's. And then what we started finding is that lots and lots of women were using Harry's. We think we have...
What percentage, you know?
We don't exactly know, but we think like... Here's why we don't exactly know, because we had lots of women buying Harry's.
Right.
But then it was a little unclear whether it was for themselves or their husbands or
we
wives
just noticed
or
both our wives use our Harry's
Totally.
products.
What we knew is that we had a significant group of people that were using Harry's razors that were not just, maybe guys shaving their faces every morning.
Why did you name the brand Flamingo?
So we're sitting in meetings, we're talking to people, and they're like, well, like, when are you guys going to make Sally's? When's Harriet's?
Oh, yeah.
Mustang Harriet's.
When's Harriet's?
Yeah.
When's Harriet's going to launch?
But you needed attention.
And we were like, Harriet's sitting in like the shadow of Harry's. It doesn't feel right to us. Like we wanted to build this thing in a very unique and different way. So yeah, we had a small team of people within the Harry's sort of, ecosystem who were really passionate about building Flamingo. And we said, you can build it. There's 2 rules. 1, it can't be called Harriet's or Sally's.
Okay.
Like it needs to be called, sort of something different. And 2, it can't be a different price. Like no pink tax.
Price. Okay.
And I think those were the only 2. And they came up with Flamingo because, many flamingos stand on one leg.
Right.
And when lots of women make sort of shaving pose in the shower, they kind of stand on one leg. And so they thought of it as like the flamingo pose. And that's good. That's how we thought about it. And again, the whole idea behind Flamingo was women have hair everywhere. People have hair everywhere.
Yeah.
It's like totally cool and normal.
Yeah.
Like it's not just on your, legs, but it's on your toes and your back and your underarms and your arms and
ears,
stomach and ears.
Let's just say it.
It's
Could
totally
be me.
normal.
Could be you.
Like it's totally normal. And you should remove it if you want, how you want, where you want, when you want. And it should be like not taboo.
Creating Harry's.
Yes.
You decided on the name, but it required something that no other direct-to-consumer startup or any startup wants to do.
Something pretty crazy.
It required a factory.
Yeah.
Wow. That's a lot of money. Casper doesn't make their own mattresses.
Right. Warby Parker doesn't make their own glasses.
But it turns out you discovered Harry's must make their own razors.
Yep.
Can you tell us why you went to Germany?
I got obsessed building Harry's with how razor blades were made. Feels like that's a thing you should probably try to understand. And be obsessed with. But the reason I was obsessed is because I knew that the key thing for Harry's to deliver was a quality product. Razors are a knife that you take to your face. If it's not going to give you a good shaving experience, you might as well not start.
Very low margin for error on that.
And like high risk. Gosh, like we have to, our job is to get millions and millions and millions and millions to believe that Harry's can deliver them an amazing quality product at great value. Well, we better start with actually delivering them an amazing quality product.
Right, yeah.
I started researching everything I could around where razor blades were made, how they were made, who makes them, etc. In the middle of the night, deep on sort of thread from shaving enthusiasts about where the best double-edged razor blades in the world were made, I found this guy talking about a factory in Germany that made some of the best double-edged blades in the world. I Googled it, and there it was. There was this factory in Germany. It was called Fine Technique. They'd been around for, I think at the time, 90 years. I think we just reached our 100th anniversary, which is wild to think about. yeah, they make some really great razor blades. And so there was no, first I was like, okay.
You G-chatted them.
Well, first I was like, I must have some connection to this place. So, LinkedIn. So I was like, how do I network to this factory? I couldn't figure it out. And so then I just cold emailed them. I said, I started this company in the US called Warby Parker. We've had some success selling glasses that are really well made at really great value and doing good for the world. And we want to do the same thing in razor blades. I see a big opportunity to do that. A lot of the same dynamics exist in the industry. Can we chat? And thank goodness someone responded to my email. And then we went over to the factory and I was totally blown away by the place. Initially, we're like, we'll start working with these guys and they'll get us into business and then we'll build our own factory. We can figure this out. And in like 2 seconds to walk in there, I was like, we are never going to figure this out. Like,
can't do this.
This is so complicated.
Yeah.
I mean, to make a good razor blade, you literally have to change the metallurgical composition of steel. You have to heat it and cool it, heat it to a place where it liquefies almost, and then cool it to a place where it's very hard so you can put the right edge on it. And then you coat it in ways that it naturally dulls as you're shaving. So as the blade's naturally dulling, the coating's coming off and you give an even shave every time. I mean, there's a lot of science. There's a reason that they've been doing this for 90 years and continually like perfecting the art of making blades. It's a lot.
And were they skeptical of you? I mean, you're coming over, you're young American guys.
So yeah,
Was it a family-owned business?
It had been, and then the patriarch of the family passed away, and they sold it to private equity firms. So the private equity firms owned it, which was helpful having worked in private equity, because if there's one thing I knew working in private equity,
The price.
every private equity business is for sale. It's just about the price. So I was like, okay, that's helpful for kind of future conversations.
So what were the interactions like? Are you emailing with them in English and German?
Probably the funniest interaction we had with them was we emailed them about a bunch of stuff, and then they emailed with each other in German. And then,
you were still on CC.
Yeah, and then re-forwarded us the email back.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, I got a whole email thread. So we took it and put it into Google Translate. And the funniest thing is like the American internet boys are requesting,
That's what they called you?
yeah,
That's great.
these 4 features be built into the razor blades.
Okay, so you're building this relationship with them. You promise to make a huge order because you got to impress these guys. But you don't really have a business yet. So from what we understand, you wrote the business plan to Harry's on the flight back from Germany and had already promised them you would buy a certain amount of
razor blades.
And then you had to go raise the money in America for this.
That's right, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But,
Fake it till you make it.
And I knew an egg issue. If I was an investor looking at this, I'd say, okay, what's the thing that matters most to razor blades? Where are you getting your razor blades? And is there anybody else who's going to get access to these razor blades who could copy you? And so we needed kind of like a agreement in place that we had all that locked down. And then I knew once we had that agreement, we could find the capital.
So you needed the factory to start Harry's.
Right.
And you got it. Now you need customers because you just ordered 1 million razor blades.
Yeah.
Totally.
But you had no customers yet. You found a growth hack to find 100,000 customers in just 1 week. It's a growth hack that Nick
Emails,
and I
not
studied.
full customers.
Right.
Correct, yes. You had leads. Tell us about the email newsletter marketing program, the referral program that has become so common today. You invented that.
Yeah, that's a growth hack that Jack and I read the paper you wrote on this like 7 years ago, and we used
Tim
it
Ferriss.
on our
The
original
Tim Ferriss blog.
business back
How did it
then,
work
on
for
our
you
first
guys?
startup?
It worked very
Fantastic.
well.
Yeah.
Tripled
That
our
works.
growth rate and led to our acquisition, actually.
Yeah, but we want to hear more about it. You got to share this with our listeners of how you got 100,000 emails in 1 week at Harry's.
Not kidding,
That's really
Jeff.
cool to hear.
That blog post on the Tim Ferriss blog was very meaningful to our business.
Changed our business.
That is so cool. At the time, there were a couple other businesses that had real success with this idea of like launching and having some kind of like a waiting list. And it really wasn't like I don't know, it didn't feel like democratic to us or exactly right for us to have a waiting list, but we felt like we could build hype before. Gilt had built that way. So you had to kind of get a referral to Gilt in the early days to be let onto the platform. Fab had started that way. Those were both kind of high flying e-commerce businesses when we started Harry's. So we looked at that and we're like, I wonder if there's some way into this for us, like some way to create a program that might be interesting. It was like refer your friends and get Harry stuff. And for me, the biggest challenge in the whole business was like get razors in people's hands. How do we get as many handles in as many people's hands as possible? What about the gift that keeps on giving? If I could get you to refer someone else to Harry's,
Okay.
and you can get a free handle for it, then like I just got a handle in your hand.
Right.
And I got something in return. We got
So
something
if
in
I
return.
refer Jack,
Yeah, if you refer
and
Jack.
we each get a handle, but you got 2 customers out of this potentially. Yeah.
And like a lot of engagement.
Right.
And you
And
get
so-
like exponential growth.
Totally. And so we had this like little internet sort of setup where we had a picture of a woolly mammoth and it said, shaving is evolving. Don't leave your friends behind.
Yeah.
And then we sort of set up this very simple sort of referral program. And we just started by sending it to a bunch of our friends in New York City, people who were, well, everywhere, but people who were just like, we had told about Harry's and they're like, this is a fun way for them to share it. And so as opposed to saying, hey, I just started this company, why don't you, can you please help me, spread the word? We're like, hey, we just started this company. And we also created a game to help you help us spread the word. And people are like, this is great. And
that
so then
game is the
people just
growth
started,
hack.
yeah. And that was this sort of little referral program.
Very exciting and very impactful.
So cool to hear that you all use it too. It's awesome.
Absolutely.
So at this point, you've called the company Harry's. You bought the factory in Germany. You have 100,000 customers
You
through
got
your
the
email
brand.
newsletter referral program. Nick sent me a box of your product. He said,
Yeah.
get ready to get groomed because you're going to be a groomsman.
Which is so cool. I love that. That's
Oh,
like inspiring marketing idea.
Oh, fantastic.
During the pandemic, however, you look around the room, you look around the Zoom, and you see way more facial hair than you're used to at
Totally.
this company.
It's like, oh boy.
And you realize this is going to be a problem.
So what did you do facing this existential crisis during the pandemic that
Guys
people
are going to grow beards.
weren't using the product?
I think it ended up happening that people started using it again, which was good for us and hopefully for them too. I mean, every once in a while. I think there's been a trend for a long time where the guys are wearing more beards or shaving less. Even like I shave today, but there's plenty of days that I go without shaving or even weeks that I'll go without shaving. And I think that's totally great. I kind of think about us, those old Dos Equis commercials where it's like, I don't always drink beer, but when I do,
Right, the
I like
older
a
guy.
Dos Equis, like
Yeah.
the most interesting man in the world. That's how I think about hair. It's like, you don't always shave.
Okay.
But when you do, we're here for you. And so I was like, okay, deep breath. People are going to probably shave at some point, and they may not always be shaving, but when they shave, I'd love for them to use hair. So that was probably like the first thing. The second thing that was really remarkable about our business at the time was that we intentionally tried to diversify our business outside of just razors and
Oh,
blades
so good timing.
over time. So while razors and blades may have been kind of down a little bit then because literally, guys were just shaving less, people were showering a remarkable amount because they were at home all day and they weren't traveling and showering at like
Interesting.
hotels or other places. And
was the
so
moment.
True.
therefore they started like our body wash business started growing dramatically.
Extra clean at home during the pandemic.
Many women and men, but I think predominantly women were waxing more at the time at home. They used to go to salons to get waxed, a bikini waxed or wax their legs or other parts of their body. And now they were having to do it at home. And so they needed a solution. And Flamingo has incredible at-home wax products. And so our at-home wax business on Flamingo started to really grow.
Okay, the women's brand you own.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
launched,
exactly.
Flamingo.
Yeah, it was our women's body care brand that we launched called Flamingo. What we started to see were pockets of our business grow materially and help us to kind of compensate for the fact that other pockets of our business weren't growing as quickly.
Yetis, Nick and Jack here again. We're back in the studio with you. We now know the Warby Parker and Harry stories through today. We also now know what Jack's great granddaddy did a few years ago. Not too shabby, man. There we go. He would be upset about the beard on my face right now. No, but he would like this interview. I think he would really like this interview. I think so too. But we also asked the Yetis, we asked you on Instagram for some questions to ask Jeff. And one line of questioning stood out. Here's the thing. You wanted to know about what's going to happen next for the whole direct-to-consumer industry. So let's start looking forward. Yeah, Jack, let's jump back into the interview, but look forward.
Now, we polled our listeners, the Yetis, and we asked them what questions we should ask you. The one most common question we saw from the audience was this: does the direct-to-consumer model, the business model that you pioneered, cutting out the middleman, going direct with a strong brand to consumers, does the direct-to-consumer business model still work today?
You pivoted a bit and you sell in Target, Walmart. I just bought your product on Amazon recently.
Yeah.
Why did you make that pivot, and does D2C still work?
So I've always thought of Harry's as a brand. And I've thought of our direct-to-consumers as our site, as our Harry's.com, as our flagship store. Even from the very early days of Harry's, we've been available other places. You mentioned, Nick, you bought jackets out of J. Crew.
Yeah,
Like-
true, years ago.
That started because prior to Harry's, Mickey Drexler, who's amazing, he used to run J. Crew, was on our board at Warby Parker. And I wanted to tell him about Harry's before we started it. And so I went to see him at Harry's, and they used to have a microphone in the office of J. Crew. In the middle of the meeting, Mickey's like, okay, hold on. Who here shaves and who here knows anything about shaving and come down and see me. And all of a sudden I had like a focus group,
You're kidding. At J. Crew.
Yeah, sitting in Mickey's, he had a big table at J. Crew. And it was this amazing conversation, and his designers were looking at the product and giving me thoughts. It was amazing. Wow. Mickey was really, really wonderful. And I stayed there for like 2 hours. And then I left. He called me and he said, we love the brand. Can we have it for Father's Day? And I was like, yeah. I was never going to say no to Mickey, to be clear, but like it kind of made sense for us too. I was like, why shouldn't we be available in interesting places where other guys want to shop? And we became, I think, the number 2 accessory at J. Crew.
Wow.
And lots of people found us there. And so I was like, gosh, this is a wonderful way to discover the brand. And then we started partnering with hotels. We did a partnership with the Standard Hotel very early on and putting razors in hotel rooms and talked to gyms about ideas. And we sort of always thought of the brand as a brand first. But as DTC is an incredible place to build the brand. As an amazing sort of canvas to tell all the stories we want, to totally control the experience. And in shaving in particular, to get to know customers. Because the cool thing about razors and razor blades is it's a multi-purchase experience.
So direct to consumer is how you started, how you build the brand. But then because it's about the brand, you needed to be everywhere where it could be discovered.
Totally. Where people wanted to buy razor blades.
To challenge you, though, you said, why not be everywhere customers are? You probably lose a little bit of margin there, right? Is a sale on harrys.com better than a...
It's interesting. So, obviously when you sell through other retailers, you have to pay them a margin. But we have a lot of costs to run a DTC site. Everything from credit card processing fees to fulfillment costs to the actual cost to ship products, packaging costs. And so it kind of depends on the product and the retailer, but it's not so clear cut as like one is so much economically better than the other.
Nick and I have a bit of a formula for identifying industries that are ripe for disruption.
Right.
And the companies you've disrupted, like Gillette, they tend to put profits before customers.
Profits before customers. We call it pros before cos.
That's strong.
Can you build a company that puts customers first, but also profits?
It's hard to pull off.
The times when we've had the most success at Harry's is when we've just done the thing that's right for the customer.
Really? Like what would be an example of that?
Sitting in focus groups and having people be like, ask people, how can we make your life better? And having them be like, I just love to see you on my Sunday family shopping trip at Target or Walmart or Kroger or CVS. And us being like, well, we should do that then. Okay, so that's and in being worried about, gosh, are we going to hurt our DTC business? And are we going to screw up our margins? And gosh, mass retail seems hard and complicated, but good for the customer.
So long-term good for everyone.
The customer starts to love you a little more.
Totally.
But you're also offering Flamingo at half the price of Venus.
Yeah.
You can pull that off and be profitable because I'll tell you, customer loves half the price.
Totally. You want to know why? So Gillette,
yes,
which owns Venus, is owned by Procter & Gamble, which is like the biggest CPG company in the world, or one of the biggest.
Absolutely.
I don't know how much profit they made, but I think they're worth like $300 billion.
Yeah.
Right.
Which means they make a lot of profit.
Yeah.
I think that I would surmise, and again, it's hard to break this all out,
Totally fair.
that Gillette Venus and Gillette razors are some of the most profitable things that they make.
Yeah, Mach 14.
And so the idea here is that, right, you said it, not me.
Yeah.
And so the idea here is that there is a significant difference, like massive for them, in the cost to make the product and the cost they sell it for. And because we own our factory, we can make products that are really, really high quality at reasonable prices at scale. And I think then it's on us to deliver those products to you at a much better value and still deliver you exceptional quality. We just wrote this manifesto that I'm like, I really love for the Harry's brand. Back to sort of what we should do that's good for customers is we will only enter categories where we can better serve customers by making exceptional products, which means that the products have to actually have unique benefits that are better about them at a price that feels more than worth it. And I think if like you continue to do that, you're going to build lots and lots of customer love over time across lots of categories. That's what we try to work on.
That's perfect because we were curious about your categories. And you just mentioned Procter & Gamble and body wash.
Yeah.
You know, you seem to be going beyond razors. You've got deodorant, you've got soap, shampoos, anti-dandruff shampoo, skincare. You got all the bathroom products.
You also acquired Lumi, a women's deodorant company, and you launched Cat Person, a cat food company. What's the 100-year plan?
What's your 100-year mindset?
And it sounds like you're on the path to becoming Procter & Gamble of the future.
But hopefully one that puts the customer first always. And I think that that is a big difference. I think what we've tried to do at Harry's over time is to listen to our customers on DTC, ask them what they'd want from us and why. So body wash. I literally remember we were asking customers, what would you want us to make? And someone's like, you guys need to make body wash. And we're like, okay, why? And they're like, because I'm so sick and tired of smelling like Teen Spirit. I was like, okay, that's a good brief. Like now we can make amazing body wash. And so what we're able to do is offer products that are made with prestige quality ingredients that might cost you $20 or $30 or $40 from other brands at mass prices. And so we think about sort of categories where we in some ways enhance your image. Shaving is all about how you look every day. So somehow enhance your image helps you craft your own self-image, whether it's how you look or how you smell, how your hair looks or feels, face, and then where we can deliver you exceptional quality.
Now, Jeff, this show is called The Best One Yet. So we want to know, what are your best ones yet?
So we're going to ask you a series of rapid fire questions with quick answers.
Here we go. First of all, Jeff, first question. What is the best slice of pizza yet?
Joe's, New York City.
West
What's
Village.
the best book yet?
Ooh, Shogun, James Clavell, my favorite.
Who's the best business leader yet?
My Warby Parker co-founders, Neil and Dave.
What's the best coffee order yet?
Iced cortado, iced.
Iced.
What's the best airport terminal yet?
I really like the Munich airport terminal.
Ooh.
They've got a beer garden in the middle. It's quite a
course
nice
they do.
place to have a layover.
Celebrate buying a factory.
Yeah, totally.
Who's the best performer yet?
Bruce Springsteen puts on an incredible concert with amazing energy in a way that I like really appreciate.
And finally, what's the best podcast yet that isn't the best one yet?
I mean, I'm just going to stick with the present, the best one yet.
We're here for it.
Jeff, to finish every story, we decide what the takeaway is. However, today we want to hear it from you. Can you tell us the takeaway about Harry's?
Jeff, what's the takeaway on Harry's?
I think that the takeaway on Harry's is that we're really on this journey together with people. And we don't always get it right all the time. We are constantly learning and growing. One of our values is grow forth. I hope what Harry's looks like 5 years ago is different than what Harry's looks like today, is different than what Harry's going to look like 5 years from now. One of the things that I can promise you is that we care a ton about making people's lives better and their experiences better, and that we'll listen and over time try to deliver on that for people. And I think if we can continue to do that and just put people at the center of everything that we do, that at least we as co-founders and as a company will feel great coming to work, and hopefully we'll have some good impact along the way.
Jeff, this has been fantastic. And full disclosure, neither Jack and I shaved for the 2 weeks prior to this interview. And the reason we didn't shave for the 2 weeks prior to this interview is we heard you really know the secrets to a great shave.
Yeah.
And so we were kind of looking forward to shaving tonight, maybe even during this podcast.
You want some lessons?
It's a unique
were curious.
opportunity to
Okay.
ask you for tips
Totally.
on the best shave.
And so let me preface this by saying I'm
Yes.
like not some shaving expert enthusiast, but I've learned a lot in the last 10 years. And I've asked a lot of people. So here are my tips.
Let's get them.
And I'd love to hear your tips or anybody else's tips.
We could use help.
Okay. Number one, shave gel or shave cream.
Okay.
Make it a great one. It really matters. And leave it on for a long time.
Really? Like
Yeah.
before?
2 minutes.
wow.
Did not know that. All
Well,
right.
Santa Claus before the...
I'm
Put it
literally
on.
taking notes.
The shower helps to open your pores. And so I would suggest that, or put a bunch of hot water on your face first.
Okay.
Then 2 minutes. Wow, we have a live shaving demonstration happening right here.
Oh, just throwing some on right now.
So,
We may have been a little, as I said, we didn't shave for 2 weeks.
we're gonna have to wait. We're gonna have to
We
wait
skipped
2
the hot
minutes.
2
water.
minutes.
Yeah,
All right,
yeah.
next step.
We're gonna need some hot water too. That's first. So then it's really important to not shave across your grain. I prefer to shave with the grain. I find there's a little less friction that way.
With the grain, meaning like up to down on your cheeks.
So it depends on which way your grain grows.
It goes
So you
different
gotta-
for different people.
Totally.
I did
And
not
actually,
know that.
yeah.
No idea.
This is why we call the brand Harry's, because like we need to be kind of approachable. And
Yetis, Nick and Jack from the T-Boy Studio one more time for you here.
In case you can't see what's happening here,
Maybe you can't see.
Nick starts putting shaving cream on his face.
So we were thinking, like, Jeff knows more about shaving than anyone else. Why don't we end the interview by getting shaved on the podcast?
In case you can't see what's happening, I start shaving Nick's face in the studio.
Jack whipped out a razor and went to town on my sideburns. It looked fantastic. It actually felt great.
All right, let's get back to the expert, Jeff.
Good
here.
idea. Let's jump back in, Jack.
So step one is know yourself.
know yourself. Know which way the grain on your. Step one is get some hot water on your face.
Right.
Step 2, look at your
Mhm.
face and figure out which way the grain grows.
Okay. Step 2.
Step 3, put on shave cream or shave gel and let
Right.
it sit for at least 2 minutes.
Been 2 minutes. And then I believe step 4 is have your
We haven't-
podcast co-host take the razor,
And shave you.
Harry's razor from your wedding,
Yeah,
and
shave you.
shave me correctly
Grain.
with the grain jack, if you don't mind. Let's start on the right side.
I'm nervous.
We'll do one swipe. Never felt better. I don't even feel it.
All right, we'll do
And-
the rest.
and the way the
We'll
Jack-
take care of the rest. We know you
And the
got
way
a
the
meeting
Jack
to get
and the
to,
way the
Jeff.
Jack and the way the Jack shave was great. She was very gentle. Don't press too hard.
Later. Jeff, thank you for all the tips.
Thank you
That was
guys.
fantastic.
Really appreciate
Jeff,
it.
great
Really
show.
fun.
Thank you so
That was
much.
awesome.